Okay, listen. I have a problem with Overwatch currently, like I usually do, but one that a lot of people seem to not really want to talk about, or either just don't. I don't really know why. First of all, it's the idea that when at the end of Overwatch 1, we had a comp called Double Shield, if you didn't play. Essentially, it was Orisa and Sigma, where they had shields at the time, where they would throw up their shields, and then if you ever did manage to break through their shields, they had insane survivability, because they would stack things like Fortify and Gravitic Flux. These things are just majorly high survivability abilities as they wait for their shield cooldowns to come back. And then they can put their shields back down, and then by the time their shields are gone again, they've got their surviving cooldowns again, mix that with high burst healing, and you have an unkillable comp. Anyway, what the point of this video is that never left. We are still playing Double Shield. Now that sounds ridiculous, right? How are we still playing Double Shield? There's only one tank, and the most played tank doesn't even have a shield, so how are we playing Double Shield? Well, because the problem with Double Shield was not the shields, and people who think it was the shields don't understand the game. The problem with Double Shield was the high survivability cooldowns that Orisa and Sigma had, paired with massive burst AoE healing, so things like Baptiste and Brig, things like that. That was why Double Shield was so problematic, not because of the shields, right? So when I say that we still have Double Shield, we are still playing in the same environment that Double Shield gave us, which is why it still feels like dog shit. That's why every time I queue up into a game and I go, wow, we're on Circuit Royale, I know we're going to have a horrible time. Because I know I'm going to go against the Unkillable Sigma poke, who's got double sniper stood behind him and massive burst AoE heal behind him as well. Combine it with like shit like Suzu and Life Grip and like goofy shit like that, and the enemy team is not killable. You cannot go anywhere near them. You just have to hope that your team wins the poke duel. And it's the exact same problem that Overwatch 1 had, where you just have to stand AFK and hope you win the poke duel. Insanely annoying, right? But this doesn't just apply to maps like Circuit Royale. This applies to good maps as well. Perhaps King's Row. Let's say that one team doesn't want to respect the Rhine duel, for example, and they go Orisa. Okay, well then I go Zarya. Okay, well then it's Orisa versus Zarya, and then the enemy team goes, you know what? I'm going Zarya as well after they lose the first team fight. Okay, so then the comp is, let's say we are mirroring Bastion, Zarya, Soldier, Baptiste, and I don't know, let's say like Kiriko or Lifeweaver, okay? That still feels like ass to play because neither team will kill anything. If I manage to walk past the enemy Zarya, and I get onto one of their, one of their many squishy heroes, let's say I'm attacking the Kiriko will Suzu herself or just teleport through a wall, which means I'm never going to kill her. Ever. Let's say that I start attacking another squishy. Let's say I go for the Baptiste. Well, he just throws down Immortality Field. I'm never going to kill them because now the Kiriko is peeling for him, and now he's getting a Zarya bubble, and now his DPS are peeling for him, and now he's never going to die. And now he's going to beat me in the 1v1 because he does too much damage. Okay. Well, the supports are unkillable, and the other tank has too many resources, just, obviously, so they're not going to die, because they've got the burst healing and the bubbles. So then the only viable option would be, let's kill the DPS. Okay, so they're running a Bastion. The Bastion's never going to die, because he's got a Baptiste and a Kiriko, who are just going to spam massive sustain and burst AoE healing on top of him, literally all day, and the only way he's ever going to die is if he majorly throws the game with a backline and a frontline that powerful. There is just no way to break through that as anyone other than either a support hero that's going to dump a shitload of utility into exposing a massive weakness in their team, or you mirror the insanely broken DPS like Torbjorn or Bastion, and then hope that the enemy team makes a mistake that you can capitalize on top of. But at the end of the day, it does not matter, because the fights still last upwards of a minute and a half. Sometimes, on some occasions, 2-minute long fights where people are ulting multiple times and still nothing is dying. And this is primarily because of the supports. The similar reason as to why Double Shield in Overwatch 1 was also most likely the supports as to why that happened for so long. For example, if you would run shield comps like double shield in Overwatch 1, but your backline was playing Ana Mercy, it didn't matter if you were playing double shield. You fucking lost. You lost because your support line simply was not strong enough to maintain the resources and the healing needed to make double shield a strong comp. Okay, so let's say that you run double shield with, I don't know, let's say you go Zen Brig. That's not a lot of healing. Why did that work? Well, that worked because you had such a ludicrously high amount of damage that you would kill literally everything before anything came near you. Would you look at that? Another problem simply just because of how strong the support line was. That's really odd. It's almost like 90% of the reason a lot of comps were broken is because the supports were too easy to play and they were too powerful. That's really weird how that works, isn't it? Anyway, we are now a year into this game. 1 full year, and nothing has changed. The burst healing is too high. There's too much AoE healing. Burst damage is still the only viable type of damage in the game. Sustained damage is literally a waste of time. You're not going to kill anything with sustained damage unless you're in gold. Okay, keep in mind, I'm speaking from like a GM top 500 perspective here. Sometimes even like Diamond and Masters players will agree. It is extremely annoying to shoot someone for like 5 minutes and they just never die. And then one Widowmaker can land, I don't know, 1% accuracy over the course of the whole game and manage to secure more kills than you simply because her hero does burst damage and yours does not. It feels incredibly lame. And with the change to 5v5, fights without any tank synergies no longer feels like team fights anymore. It feels like two people who've never played a fighting game before just mashing buttons at each other, and there's no synergies, there's no working together, there's no actually brawling, there's no calling, there's no good rotations, there's nothing. It is just brain dead button mashing mid-fight, because that's a symptom of 5v5, where there's less synergy due to the fact that there's less tanks, meaning there's less peel potential, there's less people pathing and rotating into certain positions because you don't have to anymore, and it's more just two clumps of people holding mouse 1 at each other until one team wins, and it's insanely boring. And these fights last upwards of a minute to a minute and a half long anyway, so it doesn't even matter because it's just two teams clicking on each other for a minute or a minute and a half. That sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? It almost feels like we're still playing double shield without the shields, because nothing dies unless you're playing insanely high burst damage and the enemy team is trolling. When you have a backline like Kiriko with a ridiculously high dueling potential, as well as high healing, a TP, the best support ultimate in the game, and the best cooldowns in the game, with some of the best dueling potential in the game, then it's obviously no wonder that nothing is able to actually go and penetrate into your backline and actually, I don't know, kill something, because if you do try and flank any of these heroes, you lose to them, because not only are they mixing high survivability with high healing, great massive impact utility cooldowns, they're also insanely high in the dueling potential as well. So even if you are forcing cooldowns to give yourself an advantage in the fight, you're still basically almost guaranteed to lose, because these support heroes have greater dueling potential than the heroes that can actually duel them in the first place. So it doesn't even matter. And this is why fights last forever, is because DPS cannot go in the enemy backline, because if they do, they die. Because the backline is always Illari, Baptiste, Kiriko, things like that have insanely high dueling potential, or something like Lifeweaver, where it just means they'll never die anyway because they'll get life gripped, even if they are fighting. So it doesn't even matter, because you can't. So DPS can't go in the backline and fight anyone. The DPS is just a completely cosmetic role that does not do anything anymore, and the tank heroes basically just stand AFK and wait for the DPS to do something. And you combine all these things together, and we have the exact same reason why Overwatch 1 died, where it's really boring and nothing happens. This is literally just double shield 2.0, and it has been for a year now, and it's insane that no one has realized it yet.